Hey friend, Colin from Sonic Scholar here. Today we're talking about how to test your code that you write. For me, testing is fun for a little while I see the program come together, but quickly gets boring and tedious as I have to find corner cases and fix more bugs instead of continuing to build out the rest of my app. Perhaps you can relate. Well, unit tests can help with this, so I want to let you in on 3 secret powers of unit tests that will make you a more efficient, productive engineer and robustify your code. Is that even a word? Robustify? Yeah, robustify. Let's discuss. Okay, super quick. Before we get started, I want to make sure you get your hands on my 6 tips for excellent software guide. This is a free blueprint that I've put together to give you a jump start on 6 best practices that you should learn early on in your coding journey. I came up with these tips together with my software engineering friends when I asked, what things did we learn or wish we learned early on that are super important? Unit tests, our topic for today, are just one of those things. Click the link in the description and check that out. It's my gift to you just to say thanks for being here and watching. All right, let's dive into the 3 secret powers of unit tests. Well, first off, what is a unit test? To start, let's quickly define that. Put simply, a unit test is like a tiny little robot that tests a small piece of your code. It checks if the code is working as expected, and if not, the robot will scream at you, alerting you to the fact that there's a problem with that specific piece of code. This allows you to fix the issue quickly before it starts affecting the rest of your code base. So what are these little tiny robots made of? Well, code. With that out of the way, let's talk about secret power number 1, superhuman speed. As you build out your application, you'll be writing lots of new functions and classes and layers into your application. This means the time it takes to fully test your application will increase as your app grows. This is where unit tests come in. As you make a habit of building tests as you go, you'll be able to automatically run tests on everything you've written so far with just one click of a button. Think about the whole point of programming. It's to make the machine do a lot of really dumb things really freaking fast to make our users' lives easier. Well, if that's true, why wouldn't we write programs to test our programs much faster and make our lives easier? Now, of course, it takes time to write these tests, yes. But there's a principle I learned from a mentor a while back. Slow down to go fast. I think this concept has been around a while, and it's basically the idea that there are things we can do right now that might slow down our progress in the short term. But staying disciplined, we end up going much faster and more efficiently in the long term. Here's a quote from famous American President Abraham Lincoln. "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." Wise words. Spend time sharpening the axe of your code base by writing unit tests, and you will amass an army of tester robots that can quickly grind through the most boring, tedious, and slow parts of the development cycle, giving you the secret power of superhuman speed. Secret power number 2, superhuman courage. Okay, I might be embellishing a little bit in the spirit of our apparently superhero-themed video today, but there's an aspect to which unit testing can give you the confidence to fearlessly go into your code, rip it apart, and put it back together without worrying that you've left a trail of bugs in your wake. To illustrate this, I want to give you a pretty recent anecdote with some high stakes. The year was 2021, and I had recently built a library that scrapes historical GPS data provided by the US government's National Geodetic Survey. Through some crazy awesome science, we can get this data to significantly improve the accuracy of GPS points that our customers collect. They use this for mapping critical energy infrastructure like oil and gas pipelines, and we can get this accuracy down to centimeter levels of precision. Well, early in September of 21, one of the engineers on my team was doing some routine testing, and we were getting catastrophic errors in this part of our code. That was the beginning of our huge uh-oh moment. The error messages seemed to indicate that we couldn't get the FTP server to scrape the data. Unbeknownst to us, they had decommissioned the FTP server, and migrated that data to an Amazon S3 bucket, and we didn't get the memo. Bad on us for not staying up to date. To make matters worse is that after 30 days, the quality of this data decreases substantially to save on storage space. This significantly impacts our customers' ability to improve the accuracy of this data that they mapped out with the GPS after these 30 days are up. So if you're tracking with me, our customers' data was only useful for 30 days from the exact time that the FTP server was decommissioned. So the next burning question we all had to ask was, how long has it been down since we discovered that this was an issue? Turns out we didn't notice the problem until 2 weeks after the server was shut down, so instead of having a whole month, this means we only had a fraction over 2 weeks left to rewrite the data layer, do a full regression test, release a new version of the product, and deploy it to the customer. Wow, talk about a time crunch. Here's where unit tests came to the rescue. I decided years earlier that since I was building this library from scratch, I was going to be a good little engineer and make sure all of the core code was covered by unit tests. Over 99% of the library's business logic was tested by my army of unit test robots, and now they were all screaming at me that everything was broken. But this gave me the confidence to go in, completely strip out all the FTP code and replace it with the Amazon S3 equivalent. About a day and a half later, working a little bit of overtime, everything was working. And the unit tests were telling me that all the test cases were passing with the 99% coverage target I had before. We merged the fix into our code base and went through a very normal testing and release process and had the build ready for our customer with time to spare. Moral of the story, cover your code with unit tests and you will have superhuman confidence in high-pressure situations to find solutions quickly and deliver results with quality that you can be proud of. Finally, secret power number 3, design mastery. This is almost a bonus tip to practically help you write dry code. If you don't know what the DRY principle is, it stands for don't repeat yourself, and I consider it to be the golden rule of programming. I explain this principle more in depth here, so go check that out if you want. Writing unit tests will help you find code that isn't as dry, reusable, and modular as it should be, because the whole point of unit tests is that they test tiny units of your code. If you start writing these tests and notice that they're tedious, this should trigger a feeling of uneasiness in you. This is your budding developer intuition speaking to you. And by the way, nurturing and fostering that intuition is possibly the most important thing you can do, as it's going to be the guiding light for the rest of your career as a coder. Like, this is way more important than learning all the nuts and bolts of how to program. Anyway, listen to that feeling of uneasiness. If your unit tests are becoming huge and complex, more than likely it's because your business logic is huge and complex. This should really cause you to take a step back and ask yourself, how can I decompose my code so that it's more reusable and modular? When you break that code down, your unit tests and your business logic will become much simpler, easier to understand and maintain, and on the whole, your code will get a much better design. Let me give you an expert tip that will help level up your design mastery even further. Try writing your unit tests before you write your main business logic. Now that might seem counterintuitive at first, but it's actually a common best practice in the industry called test-driven development, or TDD. In my opinion, the biggest advantage you get with TDD is that it forces you to think about the design of your application before writing any code. You have to ask yourself, what requirements am I building? How will I break those down into the appropriate functions and classes? How will I separate the responsibilities of the app into different components? When these questions are answered, you'll have a rough sketch of your app's architecture. It's fleshed out enough to the point where you can start writing tests. The main point here is by writing unit tests, you'll help keep yourself honest and design better code than you originally set out to, giving you the secret power of design mastery. Okay, we're nearing the end of this video. We talked about unit testing, which is one of the most cut and dry, boring aspects of being a software engineer, truthfully. But I hope you can see that as we peel back some of the layers of the onion, there are some really valuable hidden gems to discover with automated unit testing that will transform you to thinking like a software engineer, not just a coder. Start unit testing today to go faster, gain confidence in your code, and design like a pro. Now, if you're still watching at this point, I know you're the type of person who genuinely wants to hone your craft with coding, so I really want you to have my 6 tips for excellent software blueprint. Remember, this is going to give you a kickstart in 5 more areas than what we talked about today, and I sincerely believe this will put the pedal to the metal on the steep learning curve that's ahead of you. Go to www.sonicscholar.com/6tips or click the link in the description and get your hands on that as my free gift to you. Now, do me a favor in the comments and let me know whether you love or hate unit tests, and what's one of the superpowers we talked about today that you think could really help you get to the next level. Alright friend, that's all for now. Hit the like and the subscribe button if you find content like this helpful. It helps me out, and I'll see you in another video soon.